Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Between You and Me. Today I am joined with none other than my older sister, Karina Adams.
Thank you so much.
Of course, it's so great to have you here in our home.
Thank you. I feel so privileged to be here.
Oh my god, it's such a pleasure. Guys, so I feel like I could be echoing quite a little bit just because of the way that this place that we're in right now, the room, it's kind of got a bigger... Do you hear that?
I hear it just a little bit, yeah.
Okay, so apologies for the echo, guys. We're a work in progress here at the Between You and Me infrastructure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We'll just make things work.
Yeah. So sorry about that. Anyways, so basically what we've got lined up for you guys today is a little bit of mental health talk. And I know that you guys like to get into these types of subjects and have really listened to and tuned into a lot of the episodes that I talk about mental health in a lot. So we're going to get another person's perspective here. Karina is how old?
25.
Yeah, so Karina is 2.5 years older than me. She is turning 26, correct?
She is.
Yeah. So, yeah. So we have an older woman's perspective today. And I think that will help us get kind of deeper into this subject and just basically getting another person's point of view apart from my own, right?
Yeah.
So before we get into it, don't forget to check out my Instagram. It is at Between You and Me podcast, where you guys will be able to ask me questions in future episodes. Today, I grabbed a couple of kind of subjects that you guys wanted us to talk about, and I'm just going to like kind of integrate it into the conversation so we touch on different things. But mainly, I think that what we're going to be talking about most is anxiety, right?
Yeah.
Because in terms of mental health, at least for myself, I've mostly throughout my life have had to deal with anxiety.
Yeah. Same here.
Yeah. And it's very common. It's something that a lot of people go through, and I feel like a lot of people don't even know they're going through it, and they think it's just natural stress or the way that it should be, when in reality it's mental illness.
Yeah.
It's mental illness, isn't it? So I think let's delve into just kind of talking about our experiences with anxiety and when we kind of like both first remember now in our older age, when was the first time that we both like experienced anxiety?
For me, it goes literally all the way back to when I was in, I think when I was in like 6th grade is when I could actually like kind of identify when it kind of first started. I actually used to get such bad anxiety the night before my my French classes, and I would tell our parents about how I'm feeling, and I would get the response of, don't worry, it's just nervousness.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of goes through it.
Yeah.
So for so many years of my life after, I would just push that feeling and be like, oh no, you know, this is just nervousness. This is apparently super, super normal. But little did I know, I was pushing down this gut-wrenching feeling of like vomitization.
Yeah.
Before every single
Like
friend.
pure panic.
Pure panic, straight panic. Heart fluttering, like couldn't think, couldn't get any words out, nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like so many people experience that, and it's just so not spoken about. And I don't know if it's because we grew up like 10 years ago when it wasn't really a subject. Like we didn't really hear much about mental health as high schoolers, not even high schoolers, as like elementary students. Like it wasn't a subject. People didn't talk about it. When it used to happen to me when I was in elementary school, my biggest like memory of anxiety is just moving from moving from the US to Switzerland. And then when we first started living there was when I like, actually, honestly, I even have memories of it before.
Really?
When we used to go to Nancy's house, which was our neighbor at the time, like literally, Karina, from my tiny age of 3 years old, our parents used to drop us off there when they were working. Like this was our babysitter, basically. It was our neighbor and my best friend, and her mom used to babysit us. Shout out Nancy, wherever you are. When they used to drop us off, I would have pure anxiety every time we weren't like doing something fun anymore, like when we weren't playing anymore or like anything, when it was nap time, when we'd have to sleep over there, like I would like cry in bed and no one would know. Like I would just like curl up and cry. And the times when you weren't there with me, I feel like you were like my comfort animal.
Yeah, probably.
Like, yeah, like when you weren't there and I was by myself and like Nancy was like had to take a nap, I was like, oh my god. You know, like I was literally so afraid.
Dude, I also feel like this has a lot to do with okay, hey, you can go as long as you bring Alex.
Yeah.
So I was always kind of bringing you to things
everywhere.
And, yeah, and you were just always like, okay, like I'll just go along with
I
my
was
older
basically
sister.
never alone.
Yeah, actually, wow, yeah, now that I think about it, like you were never actually really alone.
Yeah, so I feel like when I was left in situations where I was alone, whoa, I feel like I'm unraveling something right now.
We're like, we're just
there,
here like
because I feel like now in my age, when I'm alone is when those situations happen, like when the anxiety comes back.
Yeah.
And that's where it stemmed from. Because when I was left alone, because I obviously was born and you already were alive.
Yeah.
So I had my little partner in crime for like my whole entire life.
Yeah.
But you already had your prime years without me.
I did.
So yeah, anyways, going back to what I was saying in school, what was I saying?
When you were coming back, or when we moved from US to
Yes. So when we kind of went through that transition, it was obviously very dramatic for a young kid at the ripe age of 7, and like a completely different culture, completely different like life, and kids were different. Like I was not really accustomed to it. And basically every single day, I think I told this in one of my episodes before, but every single day when my parents used to drop me off at school, I would have a panic attack. Every single day.
Oh my gosh.
And the teachers' responses, or parents, like our parents didn't really do much because, I mean, honestly, we can't blame them. They had no fucking idea what was going on in our brains because especially if you don't have firsthand experience with anxiety, or even like remember, like even if you went through it before, you're not going to really know the signs of like a kid that's going through it. And then kids can't communicate because they don't even know what they're going through. So I would go to the nurse's office. Yeah, that would be the resolution, was the nurse's office. Did that happen to you too?
Dude, I lived at the nurse's office.
Yeah.
It was so bad.
What was your situations going to the nurse?
It was all only French class. It was all literally the fear of going to French class, the fear that I could possibly get a detention. Like to me, that was the worst thing of life in 6th grade. Like going to detention. I just felt like I was going to be like some sort of degen for the rest of my life. Yeah, seriously. And like it would get so bad to the point where like I would get everything done that needs to be done, but then there was always that what if chance that I didn't do something.
Like in the back of your mind?
In the back of my mind. So I was like, oh, what if I didn't study for this dictée? What if my French teacher is gonna pull out like a pop like French dictée today and I'm not even gonna know how to like freaking answer it or like conduct the wording for it.
Did you have a fear of like failing the class?
Yeah, also because like people in my French class for like 6th grade were like mother tongue speaking French. They put me in that class just because we have a French father. Yeah. So they pretty much assumed that I could speak French fluently. So my teacher pretty much saw that my French was decent enough to like work at it and get better. So that's why she was so hard on me. But I never took it as her being hard on me. I took it as like, oh my gosh, she hates me. Like, so I did everything in my power to like get out of that class every single time. So much so that the principal came looking for me one time.
Why? Wait, what? When did that happen?
Over and over and over.
Did you just like leave the class and walk around?
No, imagine going to the nurse like 4 consecutive classes every single week. I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. So I just go to the nurse.
You just help yourself. You just go. You didn't get sent there. You just went.
I would go, you know, in between classes. So you're like walking to your next class. I'll be like, all right, we're going to take a detour to the nurses right now. It's French A coming up as my next period. Gotta get out of this one. Yeah. Yeah. So deflect.
Because we didn't know what to do.
We had no idea.
Yeah. And also to give better context on this French teacher, I had her too. I didn't have the same experience as you, but I definitely think she picked on me a little bit as well because I was your sister. So she remembered me, like you and then me, obviously. But I think I was a lot worse at French than you were, so she didn't really see the hope and the glimmer in my eyes, so she didn't really like...
No point in pushing
yeah.
her.
She's like, oh, she's not the same level, doesn't have the same capacity. I'm like, yeah.
Oh
but the same exact thing happened to me, which is so weird. Like, I don't know. This is probably very different to people listening, because I know a lot of my listeners are like North America. But in the school that we went to an international school in Switzerland for the time that we lived there. And they kind of rank your knowledge on a language and then put you in like a beginner, intermediate, or advanced class. So when it came to that, they like tested you out at the beginning in my like grade 5 or 6, I think, or maybe older. I can't remember. They put me in the top class in like grade 5 or 6. And I was with my friend Anna, who is fluent. And I rode with her the whole entire semester.
Oh my gosh.
Every project, every assignment. I couldn't even see the board because I couldn't understand what was being written on the board. Like, that's how complex it was getting. And I would look to her and be like, please help me out here. They put me in there because they walked around the whole entire class. This is so off subject, by the way, but they put me in there. The one teacher went and introduced herself, like went to each student to get their like knowledge of how much French they know, shook their hand, said, bonjour, comment ça va, da da da. And I responded to those basic bonjour, like that type of shit. And she's like, very good. Put me in the like excelled class for the whole entire year. And I just remember how lost I was in that. Didn't give me anxiety. I just felt stupid the whole entire time. Like, that's genuinely so dumb.
That's so crazy.
Like, the Google Translate that I would use is insane. Like, insane.
Wow.
And I probably would have been so much better at French if they put me in intermediate, because I would have actually learned. Like, I spent so many years in a class that was too advanced for me that I didn't learn. Mm-hmm. So here I am with my broken French now to this day. Like, can barely even like communicate with an actual native French person. I can talk to people that learn French too, because we're both kind of shitty.
Yeah.
But like not an actual French person. Anywho, that's our background on French. Our dad is French. And yeah, that's that. So those were our first experiences. And similarly, we both had situations that happened in school, which I think is pretty common because a lot of kids are kind of unknowingly going through a lot of stress when it comes to not only like teachers, like with you being abandoned by your parents in the morning, like me, or even just friendships and stuff too. And relationships that you make with people.
Wait, are you thinking about like another experience?
Yeah, in high school or in elementary school.
So that's when 9/11 happened.
We're going this far back?
We're going real far back. We're going...
Karina, I was like literally 2.
Yeah. How old was I? That means I was probably 4.5.
This is 2001, no?
Yeah.
Damn, okay.
That's actually, if I could pinpoint the time where my anxiety started for planes. Oh. That's the exact time when it started, because I started to see like all of the, footage of the plane hitting
No way.
Yeah.
I don't even know this.
Yeah, like I was thinking about it like okay, not that long ago, but like I've thought about this before, and I'm like, why am I so scared of planes? Like, why do I feel like every turbulent is going to be my like last,
Yeah, your last breath up there.
So I really think it was because of that, because I started traveling from a young age, and I remember never being scared, like being on the plane. And then all of a sudden, like this major event happens in the world, and me as a kid, I'm seeing like a plane that I've been on. I can identify I've been on one of those, and seeing it crash this insanely huge building. You're just kind of like, what?
Yeah.
I used to go on those?
Yeah.
Like, I've been on those, and that just crashed into that building. So I think seeing that footage is really what gave me my foundation to being like scared of planes, pretty much. Yeah.
Wow, that's actually really interesting, because a lot of people listening probably didn't even live through that experience.
Oh, that's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, well, yeah.
And also, for context, we lived in New York, not the city, but the state,
like
during
upstate.
that time period. So it was very close to us. I personally don't remember it whatsoever. I think my brain wasn't developed enough for me to create those memories, but clearly yours was.
Yeah. Like, I mean, all I remember was there was so much happening. Everyone was like just confused. The TV was on in the house. Like, I mean, that's really all I have memory of.
Like vague memory.
Very vague memory. But yeah.
You remember like having that fear from that point onwards?
Yeah, I was just like, nope.
Yeah.
Don't want to go on one of those again.
Yeah. And then during our childhood, we did travel a fair amount. Like we were on a lot of planes. My dad would bring us to like his work things, like our whole family to his like work things pretty often. So from a very ripe age, we were like introduced to like traveling, airports, going on planes, going in different cities and blah blah blah. So I also remember you consistently having like that fear, and I feel like I almost adapted to that fear a little bit. Like I kind of was like, oh my god, if Karina's scared, like I need to be scared right now because my older sister's scared, so like why am I not?
Oh my god.
So it was like a chain effect, and I can just imagine how annoying it must have been for her parents, like just two kids throwing up in the back of the plane every single time. We're like, I need the bag.
I need the bag. I'm freaking out.
I need the bag. The amount of times we've thrown up on planes is probably like too many.
It's like, do you not remember the one time? Oh my gosh. Okay. A little off topic.
Yeah.
But we were on a flight from Philadelphia to Albany, New York. And this was like a 1 hour flight.
Yeah.
I threw up 11 times.
Did you
I
actually?
just started like having a panic on the plane, like crying, freaking out. I'm like, this is it.
Oh my god.
This is it.
Is that when that one time when the plane like
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Basically what happened was that we came into like our plane came into close contact with another plane. So I don't know, I'm assuming that the air, like the turbulence of the other plane, like something like moved our plane really dramatically, like it felt like a steep fall.
Yeah, like
and
a
then,
drop.
Yeah, and then we like regained like flight. Like that was the only thing that happened, but it was so like it caught us so off guard that it was actually probably like one of the most terrifying experiences.
No, literally, I was like, that's it. I felt that. I'm like, that's it. I've accepted it already. Like,
We're not making
my
it.
family's with me. It's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay.
We're all gone.
That's it.
Was Mariella alive at this point? I don't even remember like
Ooh.
how early on this was in our lives.
Yeah, neither do I. I couldn't give you an answer for that one.
Yeah, it's pretty funny because we have a younger sister, which I think you guys know, and she's 17. So we have so many life memories where she hadn't been born yet.
Yeah.
And me and Karina are always like, was she alive yet? I can't remember. Can't remember if she was alive yet. If she was a fetus or not.
Oh my god.
But yeah, so definitely planes is one of the big, that's even before your school type of situation.
Yeah.
So that's like a really deep rooted. I wonder what it is though. Are you afraid of death? Like what is it?
I think it was
Yeah?
the fact that I was afraid of death. Yeah, because like now when I think about it, I'm like, there's no point in being like scared of planes.
Yeah.
Like, if you just go with the flow,
Yeah.
like
Because it's
why would I-
almost like this is a really big reason that people have anxiety is because they overthink outcomes, and then there's a word that my therapist taught me, catastrophize situations. So you're basically always consistently thinking of the worst possible situation and how you would deal with it, and you're pre-feeling the stress, pre-feeling the anxiety of a situation that hasn't even happened yet.
Yeah, no, literally.
Yeah.
Literally, like, okay, prime example is that we would be going on a flight and just knowing that we were going to go on a flight, just walking into the airport and like smelling the
I was
scent
just
of
about
an
to say,
airport
yeah.
would make me want to throw up.
Yeah.
Like,
Like your body's immediate response.
yeah. And then like when I think about that as a whole, I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's so crazy how powerful my brain actually is.
Yeah.
Like to think like that in fear, then come on. I can turn that around into positivity and be just as
Period.
strong,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
It's basically manifestation just in a negative form. Like you think it so hard and so strongly and believe it so strongly that you have physical symptoms of a situation that you're thinking. Like negativity will manifest into your body, into your life
yeah.
from negative mentality.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, you really are what you think.
Yeah.
So if you constantly think negative thoughts, you will project like a negative outcome.
Yeah.
It's inevitable.
Into your life.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
It's so freaking crazy, dude.
Because I didn't even like have this consciousness of that aspect until recently in my life. And anxiety taught me that.
Same here.
Yeah. Because
Same here.
when those situations happen in your brain and you go through like such negativity and then you like come out of it a little bit, you're able to look back at that and be like, holy shit.
Yeah.
So many things that happened to me was an outcome of my own mentality.
Yeah, literally.
And like, not to get TMI, but my physical like symptoms of anxiety were so dramatic. Like so dramatic. Couldn't eat, couldn't like rest normally. I had like hella brain fog. Like if like sometimes when you would come home, I can't remember if you were moved out during this time. Actually, I think you were at home still during this time.
Okay.
And you would come and talk to me like in my room for a little bit. And you know how we have our sister talks and it's like 45 minutes long?
Yeah.
I was so fucking zoned out. Like I couldn't even like, it would take me so much mental capacity to be like following on your stories and like giving input. It was really hard. That was another thing. I also had terrible memory, like lapse of memory of things that I didn't remember. And extreme bowel movements.
Yeah.
Like my digestion was so fucked up, probably because I wasn't eating. And also just anxiety affects your gut so much.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the ways that it manifested into my life, and it was not great.
Yeah, the gut thing was definitely something for me too. You know, even just like the start of my day, brushing my teeth. Okay, brushing my teeth and brushing my tongue, it's over.
Oh, you're gonna throw up.
You literally already start your day wanting to throw up.
Yeah,
and that's
nauseous.
the first thing in
Yeah.
your mind. Yeah.
I would just wake up and immediately have to like run to the bathroom because like my stomach hurt. Like that's how like ill I felt from just like, because I would have really bad morning anxiety, so it would like hit me always in the morning. You too?
Same here.
Yeah.
It's always in the morning.
Yeah. So when that would happen, I was like right away had to run to the bathroom, and then you start off with like a queasy feeling, then you can't eat after that. And
You're
kind of
trying to eat, and then it's kind of coming back up, and then you're just kind of trying to force it down with water, and it's just,
and it's like honestly like a task to eat.
No, it is, yeah.
Like it feels like a chore, and then you're like, you feel defeated. You can't even have the first thing that you're supposed to do in the morning is a breakfast, and you can't even do that.
My anxiety is literally what made me say this is enough. Like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. How can I help myself, like, out of these situations now? Because it was taking over me. It was literally taking over my life, taking over the way that I think, taking over the way that I feel.
And act.
Like, feel and act.
Decisions.
And it was taking over my personal life, like, my work, everything. And it was just probably the most unhealthy my mind has been was when I was going through that like deep and like, it's not to say that anxiety doesn't happen to me anymore, like it does, but I would say like that deep rooted anxiety is something that I've really worked hard to kind of like figure out and like help myself through whenever, you know, those emotions
resurfaces.
whenever it kind of resurfaces. So
what was your, like, give a little bit of context to your recent kind of experience with like stronger anxiety, like more than you were used to throughout your like childhood and stuff?
I would say the most recent experience was with work.
Yeah.
Actually, it was starting a new job, starting a corporate position. That just that name within itself started to give me anxiety, and it started to make me think that I couldn't do it already right from the bat. Like before even trying, you know, saying like, oh no, I'm going to fail. I'm going to fail at this like job. I'm going to like fail at life. Like that's really where my mind was going. I think the way that I was able to get out that was, of course, like having really, really supportive people around me. Like obviously having my sister, my sisters, my boyfriend who is really, really, really good to talk to. Like we have like a lot of conversation around it, just, you know, like really dissecting the situations, because when I can find out why I'm feeling a certain way, then I can ultimately now get to the bottom of it, you know, and make sure that it doesn't keep like continuing to like take over me in that moment. But yeah, I feel like the first step is always just like grounding yourself, because pretty much when you're in that extreme state, you're in the clouds. Your mind is just up. It's like
there's just like 10,000 things happening at once, and you don't know what to pay attention to.
You have no freaking idea. So my thought process is like, I think about the things that are the most important to me in my life, which is my family, my friends, my health, and then I have a roof over my head. So as long as I have a place to start from, I have a foundation, I have a grounding, then from there I can like start building, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And I also feel like in those high intensity moments of anxiety, the challenge is that you're trying to figure out between your logical thoughts and your anxious thoughts. And it's so difficult sometimes because you're in that state, your body is in fight or flight mode, so you don't really have a good grasp on your logical thinking. Like it takes time, and like you said, that's why it's important to ground yourself so that you're able to actually be in the present moment and be like, okay, what's actually important right now? Am I listening to this logical side of myself, or am I listening to this anxious side of myself? Because when you start to only listen to the anxious side, you're going to believe things that aren't even true.
Not even true.
Because your thoughts are really just thoughts at the end of the day. They're not physical things in your life. They're not 100% true. They could have truths to them, but it doesn't mean that that's like your reality. And it can, oh my God, and it can literally feel like it is the end all be all. Like these thoughts that you have in your brain can feel like they are who you are. Like the things that you tell yourself, like, oh, I'm gonna fail at this, or I can't do this, I can't handle this, I would not be able to handle this situation. How do you know?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't know. These aren't true states and like factual statements. No, they're not. They're just anxious thoughts that your brain is having, and it's either choosing to believe them or choosing to look at it from a different perspective, I think.
Yeah. And it's even like, I had this one experience when I was in a therapy session, and I was just explaining to my therapist, I was like, well, this was back when I had quit a job. And I was telling her, I'm like, oh my gosh, I quit my job. Like, I'm not going to be able to find another one. And she literally paused and she was like, have you even applied yet? And I'm like, oh my gosh, girl, thank you. I haven't even applied yet. How could that have been my first thought? You know, like I haven't even made the first step to apply. How am I going to tell myself that I'm not capable of getting another job, you know? So it's just crazy. Like that was so irrational.
Yeah, that's exactly true. Like these irrational thoughts are what take over in the moment, and it can really attach to any subject. Like for you, it really had to do with your work life. And at that point in time, it was like the main situation in your life that was bringing you anxiety, right?
Yeah. I think like in general, my anxiety seems to lie with more work-related things than it does, I guess.
In other aspects.
Yeah. So.
Because I feel like that can happen. I feel like sometimes there's like a base level of anxiety that people have, and that is kind of like general anxiety disorder. So when you have that base level of anxiety, it's very easy for situations to kind of trigger that anxiety, and then your brain will like kind of latch on to those situations in your life. And for me, for a long time, it was relationships with people that would bring me a lot of anxiety, like my previous relationship, even friendships with people would bring me anxiety, relationships with you guys too, my sisters, like if there were arguments, if there were like people closest to me, and the relationships with those people would be where a lot of my anxiety lied. And that was like my whole experience with it, was like learning how to listen to the rational thoughts about relationships and the irrational thoughts. And I was listening to the irrational thoughts for a good 2 years, I'd say.
Wow. Yeah.
I was very much not listening to the logical side of my brain. But you know what? It was a learning experience.
Yeah.
Because as much as like I look back at that, I'm like, I wish I wasn't like that, because I would have like saved myself from a lot of suffering and a lot of like mental torment. But how would I know that if I didn't go through it?
Yeah. And it's only through those experiences that you were able to also like grow closer to yourself.
Yeah.
Find out more stuff about yourself.
Yeah. I think that challenges with your mental health are almost like, I don't want to say a blessing, because a lot of people kind of go through like really, really difficult experiences and don't have the same resources that we did, like people around them that are supportive and that understand.
Yeah.
And even the fact that we were able to go to therapy, like a lot of people can't.
Yeah.
And just in general, like are more alone in those situations. So it's a lot more difficult, I'd say. But it is like, if you want to look at it in a more like brighter light, it is something that helps you grow so much. Like you really, really, really learn about yourself and kind of learn about the world in a way. Like it opens up your brain, because I believe that when you go through these really difficult situations and you almost reach, like you said before, like the rock bottom, like where you know you can't handle it anymore and you have to change, like that's the only time when you're gonna make moves to like change your life, to actually do something to like alter the way that you're like experiencing life, because you're so unhappy with like the way that your mentality is, the way that like obviously the world around you is, because you're seeing it from a negative perspective and things like that. So a lot of the times people kind of cruise through life with these like anxieties, with these maybe like depression situations, like other mental illnesses or mental health issues, but don't do anything to change it because they feel like it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Because it's so unspoken, and so I feel like it's definitely more spoken now in this generation, but it's so unspoken to a certain extent that, you know, they see other people struggling, they're like, I'm doing okay. You know what I mean? It's like where you think like someone's worse off than you, so you're like, oh, okay, like no, I'm good.
Yeah. No, literally. Oh gosh, that's such a bad way of looking at it.
It is. It's such a bad way of looking at it, but I've heard people say that, where like I don't need, like for example, I don't need to go to therapy. Like there's people that need it more than me.
It's crazy because you know what? That mentality, like you saying that, like I have said before a handful of years ago, because back then I had no idea that there was like more to, I guess, myself.
Yeah.
Like there's so much more to like learn about myself. And, you know, we really are our upbringing, you know? So if you're fine now, quote unquote fine, in a sense where like you're living your day to day and like things are okay, cool, chill, whatever, like there could be some unresolved issues or some unresolved feelings of things that you felt when you were a kid that you carry with you through life. And so you may not know that you have a, like, I don't know, like what's an example of
like if you've never been in a relationship before, and then you get into a relationship like later on in your life, and you realize that because of maybe your relationship with your parents, it affects how you handle relationships in your adult life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then like also, you know, like your self-love also kind of reflects within the relationship, right? Yeah. So that's another like crazy part that I learned as well.
Things that you don't even realize.
Like you literally unravel yourself and you're like, whoa, that's me?
Yeah. And you learn so much about yourself through challenges, basically.
Yeah, through challenges.
I feel like it's like sucks in a sense because you have to learn through pain, but it like grows you as a human being. And if you were consistently happy and consistently not going through challenges, you're going to stay the same.
You're never going to change.
And you're never even going to be aware that you need to change.
No self-awareness.
Yeah. That's a thing. When you're like somewhat ignorant or like naive to like your own
traits, like your own
like negative traits, then there's no room for growth.
Yeah. Just because you can't even really acknowledge it yourself, you know?
Yeah.
Some people might be able to identify that about other people, but if that person can't take the step and say, hey, yeah, that's true, that is a trait that I have in myself, I should probably work on that, then you're unfortunately, like it's sad to say, but you're just gonna stay like that.
Exactly where you are.
Yeah.
People are on different journeys, I'd like to say, because I know that a lot of people probably have gone through more of this like transformation, this mental health challenge way younger in their lives because it got that bad that they needed to work on it at a younger age.
Yeah.
And I feel like me and you kind of went through it at similar-ish times in our lives, like when we reached like this level of like adulthood.
Yeah.
Which also I think like I'm very grateful for.
I know.
Because if I didn't reach this level of self-awareness, I would be having to go through it later on in my life when I'd probably have more responsibilities, maybe children, maybe a husband. Probably not. I'm just kidding. Maybe like a serious relationship, something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it would have been even more difficult to spend time to help myself when life is like moving like at a 10 times the speed than it is right now.
Yeah.
You know?
Pretty much it would be difficult to let go of everything you knew.
Yes.
Before that. Imagine having a kid, having like having your own family, like, you know, you're in your career, like whatever, wherever you are in life, you know, and you've gone, let's say 30, 40 years, like there's nothing wrong with that. Right. But it's just, it's a different process, and it's a lot more, I would say, because you lived like, let's say 30 years of your life a certain way. And now you're like, okay, I got to let go of all that. Yeah. Pretty much.
I need to retrain myself.
Yeah. You have to literally retrain yourself.
To figure out like a new mentality, a new way of thinking. And it's hard, which is, I feel like, is why a lot of people who are kind of like older than us, it's sad to a certain extent, because I feel like they definitely didn't have the media talking about mental health at all.
It just wasn't. I feel like it wasn't like as like talked about.
Yeah, like for our parents, for example, like definitely was not a subject of cause for concern.
Yeah, like it's not something you would bring up. Yeah, you know, like how are you
feeling? Not a casual conversation, not a work-life conversation, not a thing talked about in schools. Yeah, not even on the media. TV shows didn't really talk about it. Celebrities, blah blah blah. And now it's definitely way more present in our media, which is like obviously the most influential place, I feel like. Yeah. So in a sense, that's good for us, not good for them, because they were not brought up in a situation. Also very cultural too. Yeah. Western culture, I feel like, is a little bit more in tune with emotions and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. While like our mom, like Asian culture is not at all. Yeah. Like at least from our experience.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure there's exceptions and things like that. But it makes it definitely more challenging for people our age to kind of relate to older generations. And like, that's why sometimes,
because they can't connect on that. Yeah. Because they would probably be like, well, my parents told me to just do this when I was feeling that way. Whereas like, I don't know what you're looking for here. Like, what do you want me to say? Because I don't even know how to like deal with this for myself.
Own situation. Yeah. So how would they be able to like help? Yeah. Or guide. Yeah. Like teachers, for example.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I feel like it's such a, I guess like maybe I can take us as examples. And it's like it's a very generational thing that I feel like we're breaking in the sense where like we can now like identify our emotions, identify the way that we're feeling, like be able to express what we're feeling, kind of like why we're feeling it, and like then be able to action off of that, you know? So if we were to like, let's say ever have kids down the line, then we kind of now know how to communicate that with them. So like moving down the line, they're never really gonna have to deal with those stuck feelings inside. Yeah. Because we're gonna make them feel heard, you know? Yeah. So it's, and again, like there's no hate or there's no like, there's no, we don't blame our parents for this. It's just obviously like the learnings and what you want to like,
it's like
move
figuring
forward.
It out.
Exactly. And that's what you want to like teach your kid if you end up having one day, right? So
yeah, I definitely think so too. And us talking about the different generations and stuff like that is not meant to be taken negatively, because like obviously everybody can only provide for others what they know. So it's not like blaming these older people in our lives, our parents or teachers or, you know, guidance counselors or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
We're very lucky in that sense too, because we have very emotionally intelligent parents and they learned, I feel like, with us.
Yeah.
Like they learned about what's going on in our brains, and like when we explained what was going on, and like then they have a better idea and have how we feel. It all comes down to communication.
At the end of the day.
Before we even didn't, like when we were kids, we didn't even know how to express what the hell we were going through and how we felt. Exactly. So obviously there's going to be no understanding on their part. They just see like a nervous little child. Yep. And I was probably literally the most nervous kid that's ever existed in the world, but you were really good at covering it up.
I don't know how.
Yeah, me neither. Like you were very like exterior was super, I don't even know what the word is, like extroverted and like lively, and like you weren't afraid of things.
Yeah, cuz literally for me when I was a kid, and my mentality was, I don't care, I just want to have fun. Yeah. So like I just wanted to be with my friends growing up, just like always at sleepovers, like I just wanted to be doing the most. And that's what was just constantly on my mind. It's like, okay, when school's done, am I going to go to my friend's pool? Am I gonna go? You know, so I was always like thinking of like something fun that I was gonna do. Like there was never really like, I guess growing up wise, as many moments of like fear besides planes.
Yeah.
And my French teacher.
Two very specific, very specific moments. Yeah. So definitely looking like as a kid, looking up to you, I was like, what the hell's wrong with me?
Oh gosh.
Because I'm like, why am I scared of everything? Like every place that I go to would bring me a new fear. Oh. Sleepovers, being away from our parents, like just going to school when our dad left me at preschool for too long after, and I was sitting there waiting for him to pick me up. You remember that?
Whoa, yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa. I feel like I'm learning things about you right now.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
This is actually a funny story, kind of. Like, no shade to my dad. Great guy. He's just busy. I think he was in a meeting. But I went to this little, it's like a pre-K. So it's like not even school. You just play there the whole entire time and take naps. Yeah. But they put me there for like however long. And one day my dad drops me off and my mom was working. He was working, but he was working from home. He was in a meeting. I sat in my little pre-K school with all the little teachers standing there and be like, do you know when you're getting picked up? And this is me. I don't know. Nobody was there anymore. They started cleaning up. They were getting their jackets on and waiting with me.
Oh my
Like they were waiting at the door and I was shitting myself. I'm like, I've been abandoned. They forgot about me. How am I ever going to get home? And like in my little brain of like 4 years old probably, I was thinking like, what's the solution here? There's no, like, what are they going to do with me? Realistically looking at it now, they could have dropped me off at home. Like the teachers could have like stayed with me for however long, called like whatever. Yeah. But I'm like, this is the end. I'm never seeing my parents again.
My parents left me.
I've been abandoned.
They don't want me anymore.
It was so terrifying, like that, like debilitating feeling. And every time I would go, I'd be like, you're gonna remember to pick me up, right? Oh my like that nervousness. He's like, yeah, don't worry, Alex, I'm so sorry, like it was just this like da da da. But I did get McDonald's afterwards as a reward.
There you go.
Not even a reward, as a sorry.
Damn. So that ooh here she goes thinking.
You're gonna open up a level of my brain right now.
That's like, that means that like in that moment you needed to feel validated for what you were feeling in that moment. So yeah. So basically let you know what happened and let you know that it's not going to happen again, or if it does, to not be scared that he's always going to come and get you no matter what. Yeah. Maybe McDonald's wasn't the best solution. I know. Because now that I think about it, you just trottle along in the car after McDonald's just feeling all of that and went home and that was normal. That was it. That's all. Yeah. Bye. The way that poor little Alex felt fearing for her life just stayed with her just for years.
Yeah. Damn. Honestly, all these little things that you don't even realize that shape you into the human being that you are today. And yeah, I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I was just a very, very like emotional child, like extremely emotional. I think you remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like taken as a negative to be so emotional. So it was like, can I even express my emotions?
Because you
like,
didn't feel safe.
Am I allowed to? Because will I just get in trouble for being like mean or angry? Because that's how my emotions would come out, or like just crying. You know, because you can imagine that as a very emotional child and your parents are kind of just like doing their, you know, parents have lives too, let's be real. Yeah, like they have their own stressors, they have their own things that they're going through. So sometimes when your kid's just crying in the backseat and you don't fucking understand why, you're gonna say, yo, shut your mouth.
I mean, yeah, like,
because daddy's driving and we got to get to this destination quick. Yeah. You know, things like that where like to us, it shapes us in a certain way. To them, they're not even thinking about it. And lots of different situations that happen that grew me into the human being that I am today. But at least I'm aware. Yeah.
Kind of switching the topic here, but still anxiety related. Can we just talk about COVID for a second and how it literally, like COVID in general, is what, like, just that time period of just silence, pretty much, like no movement is what made me, like, that was the time where I feel like I was going through the lowest point that I've ever.
Same here, sister.
There you go. That's why we're sisters.
I think it's so, like, that was probably a huge transformation period for so many people. Because the world just flipped on its head. Like, we had no idea what was going on. Fear was literally in the air. And that was like what was around us in the media day to day. Like, not even a pandemic of COVID, a pandemic of fear.
Yeah, and to be honest, I feel like COVID in general, like I know when we think back to COVID, it's not happy thoughts, you know. It's really kind of like, okay, like the world stopped. It was utter complete mess of what, like the world was just in a mess. But I feel like I look back at COVID and I'm like so thankful almost that it happened, because for me, if it wasn't for COVID, I would have never really sat there and thought and like really reflected and really like thought about why I was feeling ways, pretty much, right? Because like there's so much going on in our day-to-day lives all the time that my mind is always on the like go.
Yeah.
I'm always like on the next
in the present
thing. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like just that time period, I feel like shaped me into, I don't want to say a better human being.
No, you can say it.
But a better human being.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But also I feel like we have to be careful with saying grateful for COVID, because at the same time, you know, grateful for the time period and what you got to experience during that time. But obviously the pandemic itself was very treacherous to the world.
No, yeah, the pandemic, like what it was,
just want to make sure people horrifying. Just want to make sure people are not like, oh, you're grateful for like thousands and millions of people dying. No, definitely not. Definitely not. It was a very scary time and like not good, and like, you know, a lot of people's lives were like very, very dramatically affected by that. But also in terms of the fact that we had a time period where there was silence, like you said, and there was like nothing going on but room for you to think, almost to the point where we were thinking too much, which led to a lot of mental health issues, but also led to a lot of changes and like different human beings coming out of it's like so weird. It's like the way that we probably walked into like 2020 to when we walked out, like let's say like this previous, I don't know, when the mask thingy was gone, like when we could start traveling again, like things like that. So like 2.5, 3 years of time, different human beings. And if I were to reflect on, let's say, 2 years of my life prior to that, I really don't think I made that many dramatic changes of like who I was as a person.
No, literally same here.
Like 18 to 20 prior to that, I think I was like the same. Like I was just in university doing the same shit every day.
No, like dead ass. Like, like I feel like I was the same. I'm gonna give like say 23, beginning of 24. Like I feel like there was so much of me just like staying on a, you know, plateau.
Yeah,
right,
that's such a good word, a plateau, because nothing changes. I mean, yeah, your exterior world will change, like graduated high school, started university, or you know, like graduated university, blah blah. Yeah, life events, like, but your mentality, the way that you think about yourself, the way that you make decisions, act, blah blah blah, that kind of defines you more than like life changes, because you can be the same person going through different life changes, like moving, or you're just still going to do the same shit at a different spot. Like it doesn't really mean that you're a different person.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like a different version of yourself. So something that was a big question that I got when I said I was going to talk about mental health was, does it get better? So I feel like a lot of people, especially younger people, it doesn't even have to be younger, but like people that are going through harder times when it comes to their mental health are always wondering like, and I remember thinking the same thing. It's like, how long am I going to feel like this?
Yeah.
Like, how long am I going to have to go through these like difficult times and like not feel like myself?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When it comes to that, everybody's on a different time frame. It's the same with like, it's basically like healing in a way, and how much work you're willing to put into it to like reap the benefits of like getting to a better version of yourself and like healing your brain, your mind, your heart, your fucking soul, like literally everything. And I know for a fact we're both not done with that. We're not sitting here as professionals that are saying, look at us, it was so great, we did this and now it healed. Because I fucking woke up with anxiety last week, baby.
Sheesh.
And I texted you about it and I was like, Karina, what's going on?
We love it.
Yeah. And then we diagnosed it together.
We did, and it was so good.
Yeah, and it was great. And I said, who needs therapy when you have Karina Adams?
Thank you so much. You can book your appointments.
Yo, life coach.
I also feel like it's almost a choice.
Yeah.
So you kind of sit there and you kind of have to make the choice to want better for yourself. Because like, again, kind of like we were talking about earlier, it's like, for me, I was basically saying like, why do I keep feeling this way? Why do I keep feeling this way? I'm just fucking done. I'm over it. Like I need a way to help myself through this. So, I mean, I only knew kind of where to start because of you. I was like, okay, so I think like therapy for me is probably going to be like the foundation of where I have to start, where I have to like how I can learn from there.
Yeah. I mean, it is true. And it's kind of difficult in a sense because a lot of the times people that deal with such negative mental health are going to have no more fucking hope. They're not going to have that drive. They're not going to have that push because a lot of like, it happened to me so many times. I tried so many different things for me. And then like consistently I would feel the same. Like I would keep going back to square one. I had so many, what's it called?
Relapse?
Yes. I had so many like relapses, quote unquote, of like feeling the same amount of anxiety back in my life no matter what I did, that it like left me like so hopeless, like genuinely feeling like, okay, guess I'm just gonna have to deal with this for the rest of my life and feel like this forever, because I couldn't see a way out. I couldn't see a light at the end of the tunnel at all, to the point where I was like, well, if I'm going to have to deal with this, then I like better get used to it. You know what I mean? Like if this is going to be how I feel, I better just like make the best out of it and like get used to that feeling and like just allow myself to feel the way that I do and just go on with my fucking life because here I am. Like this is just my only choice, realistically. And in a weird, twisted way, that's what helped me because I finally accepted the way that I felt instead of consistently trying to fight it all the time. Because I think that a big thing is that like sometimes when you're struggling, you try to do the opposite. You try to like fight whatever you're feeling instead of accepting it, accepting the situation that you're in, accepting the way that you feel, being actually like kind to yourself in a sense instead of like bashing yourself for feeling the way that you feel, and then moving forward in that direction. And also when it comes to anxiety specifically, getting used to the feeling of anxiety is a way to train your brain to actually be able to work with it. So when you don't, and I talked about this in my first episode talking about anxiety, but when you basically don't like give your anxiety any upper hand, when you actually like internalize these feelings and realize, okay, this is simply my brain firing off cortisol, I think that's the word, the stress hormone into your body. You're having a physical reaction that's, you know, tricking your brain essentially into thinking like you're in fear right now, you're in fight or flight mode, and you get used to that feeling. You're able to manage it, because it's not about getting rid of it or fighting it. It's kind of about accepting it and managing it, not letting it be like have that upper hand on you.
I feel like mine was super similar to where like it was me trying to fight the feeling all the time as well, and I was like, how do I get rid of this? Like, and it was also me thinking like, anybody else feeling this? Like, do other people go through this? Like, hello? Like, what's going on right now? Like,
am I weird? Like, what's going on?
Like, okay. And then I feel like for me, what just like, I guess helped is when you start to question me, like you hit me with the logic. If someone were to like hit me with the questions, like this is why like CBT therapy, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, worked really well for me, was because I needed someone to challenge the way that I was thinking, because I was so sure and I was so in like belief of like obviously like everything that I was thinking, that I needed someone to really, honestly, at the end of the day, what it is just ask me questions. I don't know if I could give you an example of the type of question right now, but it's really like obviously like logic based, and it gets you completely out of that like feeling and that mindset, because you're literally thinking about that question. And then the best part is when you answer that question, you're coming to that resolution by yourself. And when
like no one's giving you that
answer. When people give me answers, or when I'm in a situation where I'm not like coming up with the solution or coming up with whatever it is by myself, then it's easier for me to forget. So if I come up with it all myself, then it's with me now. It's with me forever, pretty much. Right? So that's how I feel like you could even help someone who's, in a state of being like super, super low and thinking like, oh, there's no hope for me anymore. You could literally just go up to somebody and just, start a conversation and just challenge their mind. And then like you get their emotions flowing, you get their mind going, And then
there's a little bit of hope that might be sparked.
Exactly. Like honestly, words are power.
Yeah, facts. This is a really complex subject when it comes to like, does it get better type of thing.
Yeah.
Because there's so many aspects to it that
Yeah.
will like alter your journey in a way. It obviously has to do with yourself. It has to do with your support system, if you even have one, the people around you, what the people around you are saying, because this is what we hear in our day-to-day lives and consume and like register and listen to. And if it's always negative bullshit, that's what you're gonna feel.
Yeah.
Like the people surrounding you are so important. And then obviously just your environment in general, like where you are.
Yeah. I also feel like one important factor, this might not be for everybody, but something that helped me is just being connected to like a source, like whatever your source is, like finding kind of like
spiritually?
Yeah,
Okay.
spiritually. Like whatever your source is, kind of finding, you know, something of higher power that brings you comfort and happiness and joy. Pretty much, right? So just allowing yourself to just go with the flow. Whatever's meant to be will be.
Yeah.
You know?
I live by those words.
Yeah.
I try to.
Yeah.
I try to live by them. I'm like, I live by them. There's
Insane.
a whole world out there, guys.
Fully.
The whole entire
Fully.
world. And like sometimes it's good to think that way, because when you are going through harder times, you can think like your future is so, there's so much potential that you can reach, and you're focused on this one little time frame of your life.
Yeah.
That's very, very difficult, but you know that like one feeling is never going to last forever, and you're not always going to be stuck in this time frame or mentality that you're in right now. Like things are going to change. The only constant thing in life is change.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you can rely on those words, then you know that like the way that you feel right now is going to change.
Yeah, exactly. Like brains are so cool if you think about
brains are freaking dope. They're scary sometimes, but they're cool, and it's interesting to learn about the way that you are and the way that you work.
Yeah, exactly.
And everybody's very different, by the way. Like we're talking, this is like everything that we've talked about today is coming from two people who are pretty similar, I'd say, like when it comes to the way that we deal with things. Like obviously we have our differences and things like that, but a lot of people might have very different opinions on like mental health and you know,
sure.
how they choose to heal, how they choose to like, work through it. But if you guys were looking for another perspective, then we got you. Because I think we went right and good and in-depth with everything, which I'll actually wrap it up now. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed listening to this. This was definitely a more serious episode. We really got nice and deep and juicy into like the brain and like our deep internal feelings.
Yep.
So you guys got a little glimpse into how our brains work, basically, when it comes to this type of stuff. And I'm glad that we can talk about it openly, because it is such like it's a subject that should be able to be spoken about like so plainly and so like calmly.
100%.
All right, so have a great rest of your day, guys. I'll talk to you in my next episode. Bye.